If you're a smart, successful man thinking about the Philippines, there are 3 mistakes that quickly destroy lives here. Not scams, not bad women, not bad luck. Law, healthcare, and ego. Miss any one of them and everything you built can disappear faster than you think. Let me say something very clearly right up front. Men don't lose everything in the Philippines because they're stupid. They lose everything because they assume intelligence transfers across systems. It doesn't. I've spent the last 18 months talking to hundreds of men who did everything right back home. Executives, business owners, guys who manage risk for a living. And then they came here and they made one incorrect assumption about how this country actually works. What happens next isn't dramatic. There's no explosion, no warning siren. It's slow, administrative, it's legal, it's medical. And by the time they realize what's happening, they're already trapped. Today, I'm not talking about dating tips. I'm not talking about beach life or beer budgets. I'm talking about the 3 systems that end retirements, destroy leverage, and quietly erase everything a smart man thought he protected. If you understand these 3 traps, you can live an incredible life here. If you don't, you won't see it coming. Why smart men lose everything in the Philippines. I want you to take a good, hard look at the thumbnail for this video. That isn't a stock photo. That isn't an actor pretending to be sad. That's me. And I put my face on that image for a very specific reason. You guys know my life. You see me sitting here every week. You see my beautiful wife, Chrissy. You know we are living the dream that you, sitting there right now, are hoping to achieve. But that face in the thumbnail, that is the ghost of what could have happened. That is the face of a man who brought his Western ego into an Eastern environment and almost got crushed. This is how smart men lose everything here, not because they're fools, but because they lose the legal game, the financial game, and the emotional game. Over the last 18 months, Chrissy and I have consulted with hundreds of men hoping to make the dream come true. We have done the background checks. We have heard the horror stories. We have seen the bank statements of guys who went from comfortable retirement to panic mode in 6 months. And I am going to tell you something that might shock you. The men who lose everything here, they aren't the guys with low IQs. Usually, they are the high achievers. They're guys exactly like you. Men who ran logistics companies. Men who navigated expensive divorces in the West. Men who understand risk management. But they come to the Philippines and they make one fatal error. They think their intelligence translates into this culture. They think because they were a CEO in Chicago, they can outsmart the system in Cebu. And that arrogance is what destroys them. Today, I'm not talking about budgeting for beer. I'm talking about survival. We are going to cover the systemic traps, the laws, the hospitals, the property rights, the things that don't just drain your wallet, they end your freedom. I am sitting here today, happily married and secure, only because I navigated these minefields. If you want what I have, you need to listen to what I'm about to say. Trap, the married girlfriend. Let's start with the trap that creates the broken heart you saw on the thumbnail. But more importantly, it creates the criminal leverage. I call this single but separated delusion. You look at my wife, Chrissy. She's educated, she's articulate, and critically, she was single when we met. Sort of. A judge had ruled her annulment official. It took another year for the paperwork to get to Manila. So technically she was still married, but legally the judge had ruled. And once the judge rules, that's the critical step in an annulment. And that is why our life works, because she was single. That is why we wrote our book, because we wanted to show men that you can find high quality partners here like her, if you know the red flags. But if you ignore these flags, you are in trouble. Here is the scenario. You go online, you find a woman who looks just as lovely. She's 35, she's charming. You feel that spark. You ask the question every Western man asks, are you single? And she looks you in the eye with total honesty and she says, yes, I am separated. She tells you the story. I haven't seen my husband in 10 years. He was a drunk. He hit me. He left me for another family in the province. We are done. Now listen to me closely. Your rational Western brain kicks in right here. In America, in the UK, Australia, if a marriage has been dead for 10 years, it's over. It's just paperwork. You think, okay, technically, she's married, but logically, she's free. I can fix this. So you start dating. You move her into your condo. Now, I want to say here, this is a big, serious thing. It is illegal. You need to know. And the woman you're dating, she must tell you if she's still legally married. There's a lot of men who move forward in this scenario, and I'm not saying that it's impossible to make it work. You start posting photos on Facebook of your beautiful new life, the room. You have just walked into a legal trap. The Philippines is one of the only countries in the world outside of the Vatican where divorce is essentially illegal for locals. There is no divorce. There is only annulment, and annulment costs thousands of dollars and takes years. Until a judge signs that paper, she is married. I don't care if she hasn't seen him since 2010. She's married, and under the revised penal code of the Philippines, her sleeping with you can be charged as adultery, and you sleeping with her can be charged as concubinage. Now, the experienced operator says to me, Rob, come on, the husband is gone. He has a new family. He doesn't care. You're right. He didn't care until he saw your Facebook photos, until he saw his ex-wife is now living with a foreigner who looks like an ATM. We see this in our consultations constantly. The husband reappears. He doesn't want her back. He wants leverage. He contacts the police. He claims you are wrecking his home, or he just contacts you directly. And then comes the offer. If you pay me $5,000, maybe I won't file the charges. It is effectively legal extortion. And as a foreigner, you have very little leverage. Because if those charges get filed, you are looking at potential deportation. You are looking at being marked as an undesirable alien. You will be kicked out of this paradise and you will never be allowed back. Or you may never be allowed back. You lose the girl, you lose the life, all because you applied Western logic to Philippine law and you assumed separated meant available. In the Philippines, separated means married. Full stop. Chrissy and I help men check this every week. We check the Cenomar. We tell them, you need one document before you get serious. It's called a CENOMAR, Certificate of No Marriage. If she cannot produce it, you are walking through explosives. Proceed with extreme caution, or you will end up exactly like the man in the thumbnail. Trap number 2, the medical insolvency. Let's move on to the second way high-achieving men get wiped out. This one isn't about love. This is about the arrogance of health. I'm a 69-year-old man. I feel great. I swim, I walk, I'm active. I bet you are the same. You've taken care of yourself. You're a numbers guy. You looked at the health insurance quotes for expats, comprehensive inpatient coverage for a guy our age. Maybe it was $3,000 a year, maybe $4,000. You sat down with your spreadsheet. You calculated the odds. You said, I'm healthy. Healthcare in the Philippines is affordable. I'll just self-insure. I'll keep $10,000 in the bank and pay out of pocket. That sounds like a smart financial decision. In America, that logic might work. But here, that decision can be fatal to your net worth. Let me tell you how the hospital system works here, because it is shocking to the Western mind. In the West, if you have a heart attack, the ambulance comes quickly. They save your life in that golden hour, and they figure out the billing later. It's the law. In the Philippines, private hospitals are businesses, and they run on a cash flow basis. Let's say you have a stroke or you get hit by a tricycle crossing the street. And by the way, let's take a second to talk about that. The traffic here, it's not organized chaos. It's just chaos. I mean, I love this country, but crossing the street is an extreme sport. So you are rushed to the emergency room and you are bleeding, you are scared. In many private facilities, the administrators will meet you at the door and they will ask for a cash deposit or a credit card right now before the surgeon scrubs in, before you get the room. If you don't have the cash on hand, if your bank freezes your card because it sees a suspicious transaction in Manila, you wait. And let's say you get admitted. You are in the ICU. The bill is racking up. A top hospital in Manila or Cebu can hit you for thousands of dollars a day. In a critical situation, your self-insurance fund of 10 grand, that is gone in 48 hours. And here is the kicker. This is the part rational men don't believe until it happens to them. In practice, many hospitals will not process your discharge papers until the bill is settled. Now, they may have passed new laws, but this is the Philippines, and in practice, it can work that way. We call it hospital detention. I have seen men we have talked to, stuck in a room with the bill mounting, calling friends back home, setting up GoFundMe pages, begging strangers on the internet for money to get released. These were men who drove Mercedes back home, men who had portfolios, men who thought they were too smart to pay for insurance. Listen to me. The Philippines is a tropical environment. Infections move fast here. The heat stresses your heart. Do not gamble with this. If you come here without comprehensive coverage, you are one bad motorcycle ride away from losing your entire net worth. The smart man thinks he can beat the odds. The wise man knows the house always wins. Buy the insurance, the real estate ego. Now let's talk to the ego. Let's talk about the trap that makes you feel like a king right before it turns you into a pauper. Trap number 3, the dream house illusion. Now, behind me is a rental property. My primary house, I rent for $900 US a month. The house I'm building up in the mountains is a very small investment that I'm taking care out of cash flow, and I can afford to walk away from it. However, the title to the land is notated that the property and all structures on the property are community property, and the property could not be sold without a buyer seeing on the title that the husband needed to sign for a full sale of property and land. So let's talk specifically for the guys who sold their houses back home. You have a lump sum of cash. Let's call it $100,000, $200,000. You've been a homeowner all your life. You hate paying rent. You have been programmed to believe that renting is throwing money away. You arrive in the province. You see a beautiful piece of land. Maybe your girl owns it. Maybe the family owns it. All you have to do is build on it. Free land, ocean view, coconut trees. It's perfect. Dirt cheap compared to Florida or California. You think, I'm going to build my castle. I'm going to build the house I would never afford back home. I will impress my friends. I will impress her family. You start drawing up plans. Marble floors, 4 bedrooms, a wall around the compound. But there is one massive constitutional problem that your ego is ignoring. Foreigners cannot own land. I don't care what her uncle told you. I don't care what the fixer at the city hall told you. You cannot own the dirt. So what does the Western executive do? He thinks he has a workaround. I'll put the title in my girlfriend's name. She loves me. We're going to be together forever, and I'll have her sign a lease contract so I'm protected. Gentlemen, listen to me. That house, that is not your asset. That is a donation. You are donating a house to her family. I've consulted with men who built $200,000 villas, beautiful homes. They poured their soul into it. 3 years later, the relationship sours. Maybe she cheats. Maybe the cultural differences get too loud. Maybe the family moves in and drives you crazy. You break up, and guess what? You have to leave. You cannot take the home with you. You cannot sell the land because you don't own it. You walk away with a suitcase, and she or her family keeps the mansion. The smart man thinks a contract beats the Constitution. It rarely does. Chrissy and I rent. We rent a beautiful place. If the neighbors get loud, we move. If the plumbing breaks, the landlord fixes it. My capital is in the bank. What I'm spending up in the mountains, I'm just spending it out of cash flow. And it's not a big investment. I'll be in for $30,000, all in. But if you stuck concrete on land you do not own, if you want to build a house here, consider that money lost the moment you pour that first bag of cement. If you get to live in it for 10 years, great. That's prepaid rent. But if you view it as an asset, if you view it as your nest egg, you are delusional. Rent. Keep your money, keep your freedom. Well, those are the 3 big systemic traps: the married girlfriend, the medical insolvency, the real estate trap. These are the things that wipe you out legally and financially. These are the things that prevent you from ever having the life that Chrissy and I have built. But here is the scary part. You can navigate all of these. You can verify the Centimar. You can buy the insurance. You can rent a condo. You can do everything right on paper, and you can still lose your mind. Because next, we are going to talk about the psychological warfare. We are going to talk about what happens to a man's ego when he realizes his corporate identity is gone. We are going to talk about the white knight syndrome. Trying to save a woman who doesn't want to be saved. And we are going to talk about identity crisis that turns successful operators into day drinking casualties. Coming up, it's all about your soul. You do not want to miss this. The psychological warfare. Why smart men lose everything in the Philippines. Now, let's have some hard truths. If you watch the first part of this video, you now understand the external threats. You understand the law here isn't designed to protect you. You understand that a hospital bill can liquidate your savings. You understand that you don't own the land. Those are the hard traps. They are visible. You can plan for them. You can hire a lawyer. You can buy insurance. But here is the reality that Chrissy and I see in our consultations. Almost every single week, I meet men who did everything right on paper. They have the Cenomar, they have the insurance, they have the budget. They are smart, capable operators, and they still crash and burn. Why? Because they lose the psychological game. The Philippines is just a different country. It's a completely different emotional operating system. And the smart man, the guy who ran a logistics company, the guy who managed 50 employees, the guy who is used to KPIs and quarterly targets, he comes here and he tries to run his relationship like he ran his business. He tries to use Western logic to solve Eastern emotion. And that is like trying to fix a computer using a hammer. You just end up breaking the motherboard. Now, coming up, we're going to talk about the things that cost you your peace, the things that cost you your dignity, and eventually cost you the girl. We are going to talk about the savior complex, the logic trap, the identity collapse, which is the real reason guys drink too much, and the green-eyed monster of jealousy. If you can imagine the money that could be lost that we talked about earlier, and master the mind games that we're about to talk about, you might actually make it to the finish line, like I did. Let's get into it. The savior complex. Let's start with the biggest trap for good-hearted, successful providers. And I know you guys are good-hearted. You've worked hard. You've been the fixer your whole lives. When there was a problem at the office, you solved it. When your kids needed tuition, you paid it. I call this the savior complex, or as I call it in our book, the rehabilitation project. Here is the scenario. You come here, you meet a girl, and she has a sob story. And listen to me carefully. In the Philippines, the sob stories are usually real. This is a developing nation. Poverty is real. Family trauma is real. Maybe she's a single mom who was abandoned. Maybe she's working in a bar because she feels she has no choice. Maybe her family is buried in debt to loan sharks. The executive brain looks at her and sees a diamond in the rough. You see potential. You see a project that needs funding. You think she is beautiful. She is sweet. If I just apply my resources, if I just pay off her debt, if I move her out of that neighborhood, I can mold her into the perfect stress-free partner. You fall in love with the project. You fall in love with being the hero. Gentlemen, stop it. You cannot love the trauma out of someone. You cannot finance away a chaotic past. In our book, Fly Me to the Philippines, Chrissy and I have an entire chapter dedicated to vetting. And by the way, through the middle of January, I'm continuing to give away a free PDF copy of my newest book, A Western Man's Guide to Dating in Asia and the Philippines. Just write me at flymetothephilippines@gmail.com and I'll send you a free copy just for asking. We have interviewed hundreds of men and the lessons learned are in our new book. And the core message in all this, you are hiring a partner, not running a rehab center. I have seen men lose fortunes doing this. They pay the debts. They build the house for the family. They try to stabilize a chaotic situation with cash, and they expect that in return, she will transform into a stable, Western-minded, grateful partner. They expect a return on investment on their kindness. But chaos is a habit. If she has lived in survival mode 30 years, moving into your condo doesn't cure that overnight. And when she inevitably slips back into old habits, and when the family drama continues despite your money, you get resentful. You say, after everything I did for you, it's illogical for you to get this way. Some men say, no good deed goes unpunished. And she looks at you and says, I never asked you to save me. And she's right. You did it for your ego. You want a life like mine. You have to date a woman for who she is right now, not who she could be if you threw $50,000 at her problems. Don't be a white knight. The armor gets heavy, and eventually it crushes you. The logic versus emotions clash. Let's talk about trap number 5. This is where your high IQ actually makes you stupid. I call this the boardroom versus the bedroom, or projecting Western logic on Eastern emotion. You are a logical guy. You solve problems in your career by analyzing the facts. A plus B equals C. If there is a dispute, we have a meeting. We look at the data. We fix it. So you get into a disagreement with your Filipina girlfriend. Maybe she's mad you didn't reply to her text fast enough. Maybe she's moody and you don't know why. To your Western mind, her reaction seems irrational. It makes no sense. So what do? You try to debate her. You sit her down and say, honey, let's take a look at the facts. I didn't do anything wrong. Logically, you shouldn't be mad at me. And here's the evidence. I've been there. I tried this. When I first got here, before I really understood, I treated disagreements like contract disputes. I thought if I could just explain why I was right, she would agree with me. I was dead wrong. All I did was pour gasoline on the fire. In the Philippines, feelings are facts. If she feels hurt, she is hurt. Your logic doesn't matter. Your evidence doesn't matter. And when you try to explain why she is wrong, you are shaming her. You are causing her to lose face. And this leads to the dreaded tampo, the silent treatment. She shuts down. She won't talk to you. And it drives Western men insane. We want to hash it out. We want to resolve it now. So you push, you poke, you demand she speak to you. And that is how you destroy a relationship here in the Philippines. I know a guy, retired attorney, a brilliant mind. He treated his relationship like a courtroom. He had to win every argument. He had to prove he was right. Well, he won every argument and he lost the girl. She left him because she felt small. She felt stupid. She felt disrespected. You lose everything here when you prioritize being right over being happy. You know, I had a partner who used to say, Rob, do you want to be right or do you want to be rich? And this is the message. You have to learn to read the air. Sometimes you need to shut up. Drop the logic. Apologize for the hurt feelings, even if you don't understand them. Hug your girl. Buy her an ice cream. That isn't losing. That is winning the cultural game. Trap number 6, the identity collapse. This one isn't about her. This is about you. And it's the silent killer of successful men in the Philippines. I used to call this the boredom spiral, but it's deeper than that. It's an identity collapse. Think about who you were back home. You were the boss. You were the fixer. You were the provider. Your phone rang 50 times a day. You were important. You retire. You move to paradise. The first 6 months are amazing. You're swimming, you're traveling, you're in the honeymoon phase. But then the phone stops ringing. You wake up at what a.m.? You have no emails to answer. You have no stuff to manage. You have no mission. For a lot of high-performing men, that silence is terrifying. You go from being Mr. President to being just another old expat. And this is where the danger starts. You need to fill that void. You need dopamine. For some guys, the world is a full bottle. The beer is 60 cents. The bar opens at 10 a.m. You go down to shoot the breeze, complain about politics. Before you know it, you're drinking every day. When you see men who turn into functioning alcoholics in 2 years, wow, why does this make you lose everything? First, it destroys your health. Second, it destroys your judgment. But third, and most importantly, it destroys your relationship. Listen to me. A high-quality woman like Chrissy, a college-educated, ambitious Filipina, she does not want to be with a man who has no purpose. She does not want to be with a guy who sits on the porch all day waiting to die. If she sees you losing your drive, she loses respect. And when a Filipina loses respect for you, the love dies instantly. We hear this in our consultations all the time. Men tell us they feel invisible. They tell us they're just leather wallets with walking legs. The solution isn't to go back to work. The solution is to find a new mission. I don't care if it's getting fit. I don't care if it's learning a new language. You need a reason to just get out of bed that doesn't revolve around a bottle opener. If you come here with no plan other than relaxing, your identity will collapse and your relationship will follow. Trap number 7, the insecure warden. Finally, let's talk about the elephant in the room. The insecurity that turns men into monsters. Jealousy and control. Look at the math. I am 69. Chrissy is 32. That is 37 years of age gap. I look in the mirror. I see the wrinkles. I see the gray hair. I look at her. She is young and warm and in the prime of her life. When we walk down the street, heads turn. Filipino guys look at her. Foreigners look at her. If I was an insecure man, that would eat me alive. And for many smart men, it does. They try to mitigate the risk. They try becoming wardens. The strategic thinker says, I need to control the variables to preserve and ensure that she doesn't wander. So he checks her phone. He forbids her from going out with her girlfriends. He isolates her from her family. He demands to know where she is going all day. He thinks he is protecting his investment. He thinks he is being careful. But what he is actually doing is suffocating her. Filipinas are incredibly social. They need their community. They need their family. If you lock her in a cage because you are insecure about your age, she will eventually break out. And here is the irony. By being paranoid that she will cheat, you make her miserable enough that she might actually do it, or she will just pick up her bags and leave. You create a self-fulfilling prophecy. Chrissy stays with me not because I lock the door. She stays with me because I leave it open. I trust her. I give her wings. I support her dreams. And because of that, she runs to me, not away from me. You have to lead with confidence. Even if you feel old, even if you feel slow, you have to be the man. And the man isn't a jailer. If you can master the things we've talked about, the financial traps and the emotional traps, well, you're 90% of the way to winning the game. The mental game and the money game. Chrissy and I prove to you every time on these videos that we've found a way to make it work. And we don't want to discourage you. We want you to think with your head, not like a CEO, but we want you to move forward and be understanding of Philippine culture and be understanding of the way things are in the Philippines. You can make it work like Chrissy and I have made it work. We're here to support you. You can email us at flymetothephilippines@gmail.com for business consultation, travel consultation, or Big Brother consultation to help finding the Filipina love story that matches your life. And you can find our best-selling book on Amazon, 9 months in the bestseller list. And don't forget, Chrissy's open source social media investigation. Trust but verify. If you've been dating a Filipina or you've been in a long distance relationship, why not have Chrissy check her publicly available social media in a moral and ethical fashion? Just write us at flymetothephilippines@gmail.com. Till next time, this is Rob from Fly Me to the Philippines.